Titans, go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in Titans Tower once again with my favorite Titan talker, everybody's favorite Titan talker, ready to talk some Doom Patrol, Jesse Jackson.
Yes, we are temporarily out of the tower, and we are in the rustic old manor.
We're in Doom Manor right now.
Where this isn't a hotel where you get room service, but the guest room is on the right.
Yes. And you're probably better off staying out of the basement if you know what's good for you. So, yes, we're going to talk more Doom Patrol. Obviously, we're still waiting for our first Doom Patrol episode to get posted. Rob Southgate.
Now, to be fair,
yes.
It took a while for me to edit it.
I know.
Yeah, I did not get it to him till like Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So,
all right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, then I'll give him the benefit of the doubt then. All right. Mm-hmm. But because of that, here we are. We're back for our second episode. We're going to talk Donkey Patrol, the second episode of Doom Patrol Season 1, which just debuted just a few days ago on February 22nd, 2019. And this was written by Neil Reynolds and Shoshana Sachi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Directed by Dermot Downs, who's directed a lot of Berlanti-verse, Arrowverse shows. So pretty common director for Greg Berlanti production like this. And I can't wait to talk about it with you, Jesse. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes. As we produce on the air, let's make a note after Doom Patrol. Let's do an episode because there is a connection to talk about Greg Berlanti and the amount of TV he has been involved in.
Yeah, this is true. Well, he's apparently DC's go-to guy.
Well, and even outside, and the reason I'm thinking of this is Brad Meltzer, major Titan fan, has talked about the Teen Titans as one of his major influences. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Tara was his first crush.
Oh, really?
Yes, and then
he likes the bad girls.
And well, he didn't know it at the time. I will find the link where he talked about the Judas contract and how much it meant to him. But he wrote the TV series Jack and Bobby. Was one of the people, and and Greg Berlanti was the producer.
Oh, so they know each other. So they're acquainted. Okay.
And so he just tweeted that his oldest son said, "Hey, didn't you do a TV show? Let's watch it, Dad." So that which made me think of that. So
oh, cool.
Yeah,
excellent.
I begged Brad, and he wisely put me aside when I was at the book signing. I went, I'm doing a Titans podcast. It would be really cool to have you join. And he politely said, "Jesse, I'm just too busy." So, but anyway,
but
I'm holding out hope.
Hey, I appreciate you at least trying.
Yeah, exactly.
That's more than I would have the guts to, because I would know that he's probably insanely busy. But
yes.
So I'm going to give you points just for at least trying that.
Thank you, Charles.
This is a Titan Talk podcast about Titans, but even though we're going to talk Doom Patrol, we actually now have a Titans connection. So this actually relates to the podcast, because with this episode, we get the introduction of Joivan Wade, who plays Cyborg, a.k.a. Victor Stone, and we also get his father, Silas Stone, played by Phil Morris. So, that's pretty much a direct Titans connection as it gets. Obviously, Cyborg, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. And even though, we saw the character in Justice League movie not too long ago, played by Ray Fisher, here we have a TV version. So we're getting a lot of Cyborg recently. He's kind of getting more exposure. So I can't wait to talk about that with you, Jesse, what your thoughts about Cyborg are.
Oh, I am so excited.
All right. Since I mentioned Joivan Wade, Jesse and I are familiar with this actor because, of course, doing Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that hopefully everybody's listening to. He was on a couple of Doctor Who episodes because he played Rigsy in the Peter Capaldi era stories Flatline and Face the Raven.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool. I'm a little familiar with him, and here he's obviously doing an American accent and doing it rather well, in my opinion. I think he does a great job, and he's very charismatic, I think.
Yes.
His character, this version of Cyborg.
I don't know if I'm jumping over your topics.
Well, we will talk about Cyborg.
Okay. Well,
Silas.
then I'm gonna package that.
Yeah.
So I have a hot Cyborg opinion.
Okay. Well, you can save it for our Cyborg segment.
I will.
Okay, that'll be our second segment.
Okay.
All right. But we also have Phil Morris, who plays Silas Stone, and he's a very cool actor. He does a lot of voice work. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. He is, I'm sure you're about to mention one of the relevant roles he's involved in.
Right.
When you talk about animated, he's all over the DC universe.
Yes.
But go ahead and talk about what he did.
Well, one of the couple of things I want to mention was that, of course, he played John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, on Smallville, which is a show that both you and I are big fans of. And I got to know him. I was introduced to him earlier back in the 80s because I was a fan of the 1988 version of Mission Impossible.
Yes.
Where he played Grant Collier, the son of the character that was played by his father.
Yes.
In the 60s Mission Impossible. So it's kind of like a Mission Impossible The Next Generation as far as this character goes.
Yeah.
But so he's been pretty, notable since the 80s, and it's kind of very cool to kind of see him here playing Silas Stone, Cyborg's father.
Yeah, I knew him. I also watched him on the Mission Impossible.
Yes.
He has voiced so many characters in the animated.
He's done a lot of DC animated work, so it's he obviously has a fondness for playing DC or comic book characters.
He played Jackie Childs in Seinfeld,
right?
Which was kind of the Johnny Cochran type character.
I forgot about that, but you're right.
And I remember reading an interview with him when he was on Smallville that he is a major comic book fan and that he was thrilled to play John Jones. And obviously the current John Jones is amazing in Supergirl.
Right.
But at the time, it was as close as we had to somebody that obscure. And I realize John Jones is not an obscure character, but for a non-comic book fan, he just isn't Superman, Batman.
Right. He's probably second tier.
Right. And so I loved him playing that. I thought he was absolutely great. And I was very happy to see him in this series because I recognized them immediately. And I said, okay, that's some weight. That is some acting street cred adding to the characters, which this show is already full of so much heavyweights.
Yes. Now, there was another actor in this who gets kind of a cameo here, but I wanted to bring him up. Curtis Armstrong, who played what was named Ezekiel the Cockroach. So that was the little cockroach that actually is like proclaiming, he's almost like a prophet, and he's kind of pontificating while the kind of wormhole black hole is kind of eating the city of Cloverton, Ohio. And then he gets pulled into the black hole, which was rather funny. But the character that was just something brand new that this show came up with. But the reason I bring up Curtis Armstrong is because I was a big fan of the TV show Moonlighting back in the day.
Yes.
And he played Herbert Viola, the paramour of Miss DePesto on that show. And he was really good on that. And he's also like a big 80s. If you're a fan of 80s movies, you probably saw him in a number of places. He was in the great John Cusack movie Better Off Dead.
Yes.
He played a character named Charles, no relation. And he also played, most notable probably for playing the character Booger in the Revenge of the Nerds movies.
Yes.
So if that voice sounded familiar, that's why. Because that's Curtis Armstrong.
And
he's done a lot of other things.
Yes, he was also in Supernatural playing a angel Metron. So
Metaltron.
Yeah. So once again, just a really nice little character, to have it been in there to kind of talk about it. So yeah, very happy.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention those. So
yeah.
Cyborg presumably is joining the team. I don't know how long he'll be staying, if he's going to stay more than this season or not. I'm kind of hoping that he'll cross over to Titans at some point and jump teams over there. But
yes,
we don't know yet. We don't know exactly what the plans are, but it would be really nice if he did.
Yeah.
And it would be great to see him over there.
Though he really fits well. He's a needed part of the Doom Patrol.
Right.
And as we get into a little bit closer, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So with that, our first topic I want to talk about, and I do have themes for this. Hopefully they might make sense toward the end.
Okay.
But I'm hoping you may not be familiar with these titles, but if you're a certain fan of a certain singer, you might be aware of these titles. So the first topic I want to talk about is It Ain't Easy. And that is, I want to talk about Robot Man and Crazy Jane, first off. Because these two characters are obviously connected. And this episode was really good at showcasing just the amount of personalities inside Crazy Jane. We know that she has 64 different personas, but we really get a good taste of them as she kind of flitters back and forth between like all these personas, probably maybe kind of stimulated by that wormhole. And Cliff has to kind of try to I want to say that he's obviously concerned about Jane, and he's trying to learn more about her and does a little research. So I want to get your thoughts on these two characters in this episode.
I mentioned in the last episode that people have not got to hear yet, that I am irritated when if Jane would change personalities a lot. I didn't want to see that. In this case, though, I felt like it worked. I didn't feel that.
I think there's some more introductions.
Yeah, I think this was. If they played this all the time, I don't think I would like it. But as they did, I'm okay with it. I liked her. I liked seeing all the different characters. I also like how her physical appearance changes, because she is not just a mentally having these different personalities. She is a meta with multiple personalities.
Right.
So,
each personality has its own superpower. Yes.
Yeah, and so they look differently.
Credit to Diane Guerrero, who plays Crazy Jane.
Yes.
For being able to kind of give each talented enough to kind of give each personality its own personality, for lack of a better word. They each have their own distinct characters.
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a credit to her. Now, some of it is kind of helped out with makeup and hairstyling.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a credit to her that she's able to kind of make them distinct.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, Riley Shanahan is the actor who's wearing the Robot Man suit.
Right.
And then Brendan Fraser does the voice.
Yes.
They both are doing a very good job. As much as you can use your body to portray emotions and, what Cliff is feeling, I think he's doing very well. And
Right.
then I really think Brandon is the voice acting is really strong. So, I like Robot Man. I think he is by choice, our central character. He is the introduction to this world. Right. He is kind of our version.
He's the point of view character.
Yes, absolutely. Much like, a lot of times the companion is our point of view character when we watch Doctor Who. So I think he's been really well. Certainly very likable. A lot of flaws, but right. I think that is the purpose of this show, is the different flaws. So yeah, I loved their interaction. I'm not your daughter. Him trying to interact back and forth, trying to take care of Jane. Really, really, just there's nothing not to enjoy here.
Yeah, and this kind of follows up on what we were talking about last week, was that Cliff is still obviously on trying to redeem himself.
Yeah.
He feels that he wasn't there for his daughter, and he cares about what happens to Jane. For whatever reason, Jane is his, he feels that she's this puzzle that needs solved, or at least, that helped.
Yes.
And he's very empathetic toward her. And in the one hand, it obviously helps make his character much more likable because he's caring so much about Jane and trying to help her, compared to the what he used to be before he became Robot Man.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that, that he's better as a robot than he is as a human being.
Absolutely, much more human.
Right. But he still has these failings that he's trying to overcome. And Jane, we get the first sense that she's kind of aware of this. At least one of her personalities is. I forget which personality it was, but basically one of them confronted Cliff and said, "Hey, look, I know about your daughter, how you really screwed that up." And so, and I think that kind of made Cliff kind of be a little bit taken aback by that for a moment, until he rebounded and realized that that it was just one of Jane's personalities talking, and that, he still needed to try to help her. So he goes off and he tries to research what's going on with her. He goes down to the chief's lab or whatever in the basement, and he comes across videos that the chief had made of Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And watches those videos to try to get a better understanding. And we learn more of the underground, which is this kind of mindscape that Jane, after being so traumatized, in order to kind of manage these personalities, came up with in her brain. And Cliff gets a better understanding of that, especially after he uncovers a map of the underground that one of Jane's personalities, the Hangman's daughter, drew for the chief. And at this point, I think Cliff realizes the magnitude of how screwed up she really is.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. First off, very cool, the retro look of the VCR player.
The VHS.
Yeah, I mean, that alone would have made it look old, but if they had
the really old TV set.
Yeah, just kind of helped. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's interesting. I like that Jane seems defensive about the underground. What do you know about the underground? You
Right.
know? Um,
Well, some of her personalities are obviously very protective,
yes.
and we get the mention of this one personality, Katie,
Hmm.
which is obviously buried deep down in Jane's psyche.
Hmm.
And the other personalities are trying to protect Katie to the point where if they think Katie is threatened, the other personalities lash out, and this is why Jane ends up attacking Cliff and Cyborg at one
Yes.
point. So, do you think that what's your feeling about like just that this Katie persona? What do you think that's going to bring to the series?
It
Now,
depends.
I kind of have an idea, although Katie was something a little different in the comics.
So it depends if Jane can end up controlling these.
Right.
Like Hammerhead, right? Um,
Yes.
when you need strength and um, the you know the this version of this fire creature
Yes.
can be very powerful if she can be controlled. And what I mean by be controlled is Jane can she will work with the other team. She'll know she's a teammate. I think a
Right.
perfect example of that is um, in Flash how Killer Frost has
Yes.
become part of the team
They
while
they
yet
they
remaining.
figured out a way to manage her, is what you're saying.
Yes, and
Yeah.
and she where she wants to be managed, and she is definitely a a part of the team and glad to be there. So if they can get that, I think that's going to be a powerful weapon for them. My worry is that won't happen. She
Right.
will be a she will just be someone who is kind of a wild card that they can't plan on
Right.
being able to count on.
Yep. Now, one of the personalities that was very distinctive in this episode was Baby Doll.
Yes.
This very childlike persona, and I thought was Diane Guerrero's best performance in this episode. That um, they did her hair up in pigtails, and she obviously is just this really that childlike performance. Just it was pretty powerful, I thought. And this is persona that tries to is willing to at least talk to Cyborg, which
Hmm.
is one of the reasons Robot Man ends up going to the basement, much to Robot Man's chagrin.
Yeah, because she says, "Oh,
She's all yeah,
he's
he's scary.
ugly, he's
Yeah.
scary," and so that was um, that.
Did you feel bad for Cliff at
I
that
did.
moment?
I felt bad for Cliff a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because here he is. He's trying to reach out, and then this one personality just completely hates him, finds him scary, and then here's the newer model Cyborg.
Yes.
So there's a little bitterness, I think, on the part of Cliff,
Absolutely.
and he's kind of like goes down and like he's muttering to himself. He calls Cyborg like a robo tween and all that, and I thought was kind of funny.
Hmm.
But Baby Doll was really interesting because um, Cyborg's trying to relate to her. Um, he's showing her little kitten videos. He's projecting them on the wall or whatever, and
Yes.
she thinks that's adorable.
Hmm.
She's really enjoying that. So now that he's trying to but he's doing it with an ulterior motive. He's trying to get her confidence so that she'll talk about what happened to the chief.
Hmm.
And Baby Doll picks up on it.
Yes, he does. She
And,
does.
and she says that, she didn't witness it, but Katie did. And so Katie knows what happened to the chief,
Right.
but, and this is what triggers the whole fight, is that Cyborg keeps pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a kind of a great juxtaposition, because at that moment, Cliff's downstairs figuring out, like, okay, she really doesn't like to be interrogated.
Right, and he comes up there running.
Yeah, he's going like, oh,
oh
shit,
no,
oh shit,
don't
oh
you
shit,
do it.
yeah. And, and he's trying to get back in time, but of course everything goes to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that whole sequence is really well done.
Yeah, and there's that great scene where they go up to Rita and like, do you want to take a walk? I could use some air while all chaos is going behind them.
That's one of the things I want to talk about in our third segment is Rita and Larry. But yeah, they basically like, I'm not dealing with this, and they go outside.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. All right, anything about Cliff and Crazy Jane before I move on?
Nope.
Okay. Second topic: Panic in Detroit. And so we have In Ain't Easy, Panic in Detroit. Hopefully someone out there picks up on the theme. Mm-hmm. And this is I want to talk about is Cyborg and his father, Dr. Silas Stone. Because obviously we're introduced to both of these characters. And this Cyborg here is a bit different from the one we saw in the Justice League movie. And a little bit different, I think, from the comic book version that we were fond of back in the 80s with the new Teen Titans. He seems a bit more confident and more like accepting of his situation.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on him.
So I think this is my favorite version of Cyborg I've seen. Now I know we haven't had that many, but this is just I like this character a lot.
You like this version better than Ray Fisher's version in Justice League.
I think he is the perfect addition because he seems to be more level-headed, more focused, more comfortable with what he is, and so he is a natural leader, for the group. So that's why, as much as it would be fun to have him on Titans, I just think he might got lost if he had joined the Titans, and this gives him a lot of room to shine as a character.
So do you think they brought him in to try to focus the team more on feeling like they could be superheroes?
Yes, absolutely. And because he talked about that, I thought it was really nice when he was in the the dimension.
Yes.
And they were trying to, Mr. Nobody was trying to torture him.
Yes.
And he's like, so what? I live this every day. Every night. This is.
I really thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, it was really good. It was.
Cyborg's just all like, okay, bring it.
Yeah,
I can, like, whatever you dish out. You think this is making me upset? I can deal with this all day.
Yeah, because I live with it every day. I liked how they showed his interaction with machines.
Right.
Really
like
well.
With the ATM. I thought that was a really good scene.
Yeah, and then helping her, the lady that was going to get mugged. I liked his interaction. The comics, there was always a little bit of tension between his dad and him.
Right.
And there was the right amount of tension here. Not so much that I disliked his father, but there was enough that, his father has ambitions for him and where to think.
Right.
This Victor does not seem to feel sorry for himself the way that, as you kind of talked about in the Teen Titans, he's more accepting of this is what happened, and truly trying to live a legacy of his mom. And he talked about that, which I thought was really nice. So I love how comfortable he was, how much he's friendly with the chief, their friendship together. This was just really, really a great second episode and shows that, Cyborg needs to be part of this team. I was just really, really impressed.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you were, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that I hope this helps you appreciate the show more.
Well, when we summarize, I'll give you my
Okay.
thoughts. But
All
yeah.
right. Great. All right. Great.
Okay.
Now we talked about that this version of Silas Stone, Vic's father, is a little different than what we've seen before, because in the comics and also in the Justice League movie,
Yeah.
Silas is basically depicted as this very detached, obsessed with his work. Like he kind of views Victor as more of a science research project than his son,
Mm-hmm.
and which of course creates a lot of resentment for Victor toward his father. But here, this version of Silas almost kind of is like a sidekick,
Yes.
or like basically almost like the Alfred to Cyborg's Batman. They're actually working as a partnership, and this version of Silas wants Victor to be like a top level superhero. They've
Yes.
worked out a plan, and this is one of the things that in the flashback Vic talked about to the chief is that, well, hey, I'm looking, like I've got this 5-year plan to join the Justice League, maybe sooner, depending on how
Right.
things go. And so essentially they've worked out this goal, and that like with so Silas is essentially kind of like monitoring how Vic performs as a superhero and critiques him into what he feels needs to be make him a better, more top level superhero. So he's kind of critiquing his performance a bit. And so as a result, Vic buys into this a little bit, but then the chief comes along and kind of puts these little seeds of doubt in Vic's brain,
Yes.
going like, well, is this what you want, or is this what your father wants?
Yes.
And so these little tiny seeds are kind of starting to, I think, they're going to put a little friction between Vic and his father.
I think
And
so.
we kind of saw this at the end of this episode, where Victor wants to, like he's all into the Doom Patrol and like, hey, let's go do this, and we're going to get Mr. Nobody. And then his dad pulls up in the car going,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
like covered in goo and you're hanging around with these circus freaks.
Yeah.
This is not what we planned.
Exactly.
And Victor's just like, I think you need to leave now. I think I need to be here, because Victor's more concerned about Niles than obviously his father is.
Yes.
So I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah, I love it. It was so good.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see where this goes. And
Yeah,
then
I
of
am
course
too.
you have Vic's kind of conflict with Robot Man Cliff,
Mm-hmm.
where Cliff is this kind of like almost homemade looking robot and the android, and then Vic comes along. He's all shiny and chrome, and he's younger, and so you have that kind of like older man versus the young kid who comes in, who looks act all the hot shot. And so there's this they're kind of butting heads at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Vic sees him, Vic, or excuse me, Cliff sees Vic as kind of the newer model, so he's a little resentful. I think maybe that also probably because um, Cyborg has at least a half human um, actual flesh.
Yes.
He's not completely robotic like Cliff is.
Yeah.
So there might be a little resentment there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'm sure that'll cause some at least a little bantering between the two as in the episodes going forward.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else about Cyborg or his father before we move on?
Nope. I just really liked him. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, very good.
All right. Third topic. This hopefully might clue you in on where I'm going with this theme.
Okay.
We could be heroes just for one day.
I do not recognize the song titles.
All right. Okay. So These are all David Bowie titles.
Oh, okay. I should know there.
And the reason I brought this up is because David Bowie's one of his last major songs right before his death was called Lazarus,
Mm-hmm.
which plays at the very end when Larry is unwrapping his bandages.
Yes.
And we kind of get a good look under the hood, under Larry, and see what's going on there. So I thought I'd do a little David Bowie homage here.
Always nice. I really liked that scene because it explains a little bit why he wears the bandages.
Right.
But it also explains how he could have drank the beer.
Yes.
He can eat.
Yes.
So he can open, like the Spider-Man mask where you pick it up, He
does actually have a face and the mouth and whatnot up there. And I want to talk about Larry and I want to talk about Rita in this segment because they're obviously the two reluctant members of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But they still play an active part in this story. They actually do heroic things in this story, albeit reluctantly.
Right.
So I want to get your thoughts on them, and we get a really good closer examination of what Larry's going through in this episode, and we get more of we see Rita and just how truly damaged her brain is over what happened to her.
Yes.
I think. And then made for some comedic moments, but also made for some tragic moments, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on these two characters.
I just love Rita. I just know
April Bowling is great.
Yeah, she's just how she's always so proper. I was going to say formal, but it's just proper. I think comes across better. Very.
She's big on etiquette and presenting herself.
Yes, and so I really like that. I liked the idea because if I remember correctly, and like I said, I'm not a huge Doom Patrol fan, just the classic series I remembered.
Right.
It always felt like Larry, the negative man, was him. Like he dropped the body and he, he was always that negative man, and that's why he had the bandages. This is a different take where this is actually a creature living inside him.
Yeah, the negative spirit. Yeah.
So a symbiotic relationship. And I liked his note, we have to come up with some ground rules.
Yeah, they're actually in conflict, these two.
Yeah. And so I thought that was good. I thought that was an interesting take. I understand a little bit more of perhaps why they had him be gay, because the idea when he was in the closet, he was fighting an inner self. He had a wife, he had a child.
Right.
He was this straight, got the right stuff test pilot, but also inside of him was a true self of where he can't be with the one he loves. He can't live his life that way. So there is an inner conflict. Right. Now then that he is gone, there is another inner conflict. There is him, the very badly damaged physical self, but inside there is another creature, another person. And so I think he's used to that struggle, and I think this is a nice way to show that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you're pointing out, is that the negative spirit inside Larry is essentially, it's almost a symbol for what he went through in the 60s.
Yes.
Being this test pilot, because obviously back then this was heavily frowned upon.
Yes.
Back then. And he wasn't out. He was
right.
And he was, because he was married, and in polite society this was not acceptable.
Yes.
So he couldn't be this, and so he had to lead this secret life. He had to keep that, his true self, like you pointed out, inside him.
Yes.
And so we have the negative spirit. It's kind of the same thing where Larry is having to come to terms with a creature inside him,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out how they can coexist.
Yeah, and I was a little critical that I felt like it was an unnecessary twist to have him be
Right.
gay.
And now you kind of see
Now
the
then
point
I
of
go, okay, I was totally wrong, and I should have had more faith in the writers.
Right.
Because I think that's a very important, and it does not appear that they are.
It's like the negative spirit is a metaphor for.
Yes, and they're not hitting us over the head with it. It's just a very. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah, and obviously Larry's great scene is that scene where he's at the bus terminal.
Yes.
And he's trying to get out of Cloverton, or what's left of Cloverton, and he's basically saying, okay, I want to go wherever the most remote spot you can take me.
Yeah.
And he goes there, he purchases a ticket, and he tries to go one place, but then the negative spirit knocks him out and keeps him from going.
Yeah.
And so Larry has to go back inside, get another ticket to somewhere else. He tries that. That fails. The negative spirit does the same thing again, over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And so to the point where just Larry's just screaming up at the heavens, or screaming at the negative spirit, just like, come on already, let me leave.
And what I thought was really funny, it's a small role, but as you say, there are no small roles. There are only small actors.
Right.
The lady working it, why bother?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That was such a great line. Just
right.
Really?
Yeah,
so,
it's like we've done this 13 times or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it was a really good scene, and it was. I was glad to see Larry finally getting some spotlight. I thought that was
agree.
good. And then he comes back home, and he kind of apologizes to Rita for running away, and they have actually a pretty good moment where she's all like, "Well, I'd run away from me too," and then at that point, Larry and Cyborg figure out that the donkey is a doorway to this other dimension, and they turn back and look at Rita going, hey, you could help us out with this, right? And this was just an amazing performance right here by April Bowlby, where she just completely loses it, and about the idea of, stretching down the gullet of this donkey.
Yes,
to see what's going on. It's the most horrible thing she can imagine.
Yes.
And of course,
I don't want this.
Yes. And so I thought that was just a hilarious, but also just amazingly acted moment.
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought that was great. And just obviously, I'm kind of curious to see. We kind of see Rita and Larry essentially being the outsiders, but even Larry is brought in, who's just obviously trying to run away from the situation, and they talked about that. That's all he's done throughout his life. And here he is. He ends up helping to save the day at the end and bring the town back from whatever the other dimension.
Yeah. And one of the things I really, really liked is the scene where he's in the plane,
right?
And take the stick, and he's like, no, I'm not going to. And then when he finally takes it, it is freedom. He knows this is an illusion, but he gives in to the illusion.
Right.
And I just thought that was really well done.
Yeah, it was. And then, unfortunately, we still don't know what happened to the chief.
No.
And Mr. Nobody's obviously keeping the chief under wraps. But by this point, though, Cyborg, because of his conversation with Mr. Nobody, kind of clues the team in saying that I don't know who this guy is, but he called himself nobody.
Right.
And so they're kind of starting to piece together a little bit. And we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
So, so we'll see what happens. But the episode ends. I forgot to mention this when we talked about Jane. Is that we're kind of teased with a ominous foreshadowing, where the Hangman's daughter is painting again, but it's almost like she paints a prophecy of Cyborg in kind of the same pose of Crisis on Infinite Earths #7, where Superman's holding up Supergirl.
Right.
And I think that was intentional.
Yes.
That Cyborg is holding up his dead father in his arms, cradling him in his arms, with the other Doom Patrol members scattered around, presumably dead as well. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But obviously it's probably going to turn out to be something a little bit different than what's expected. But they're obviously hinting that, hey, the Doom Patrol is doomed. No pun intended.
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens. But I thought that was interesting. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
I just wanted to say that I was, you had known I had said, hey, I don't know if I want to talk about this every week. This is just a bat crazy series,
right?
In such a good way. I mean, just
are you getting into the zone a little bit?
I just love this. There is so much, and don't get me wrong. I mean,
yeah.
I love the Titans, and I was really happy that we saw them. But this is just something
different.
Yes, different. That is exactly what.
And that's what makes it good.
It's just so much different, and also like Legion is different,
right?
But this is so fun,
right?
I mean, it's crazy, but it's fun. There is a joy to it, and you would think, as weird as all the characters are, it wouldn't be joyous, but it's just great. I am just so impressed.
Well, good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because it's a show that doesn't take itself seriously.
No.
And that's part of the charm, I think.
Yes.
But it also, on the same token, it also provides really good drama at times, too.
Yeah.
So it's not just this weird show for the sake of being weird.
No.
It's just a good drama with some very unusual superheroes that, bring something different to the table. It's not the same old like CW Arrowverse show. It's something completely different. And this is one of the things I was really hoping with this series, is that it would embrace that weirdness.
And it has been. I mean, it totally has.
And it brings something new to the table for DC TV shows. And I'm really glad to see it. And really glad you're enjoying it, because obviously, being a Doom Patrol fan, I was all in from the beginning and was hoping for the best. But I know you as a non-fan, and I'm hoping this means that other people might find this appealing as well. So
yeah, I'm hoping so too. It was just it's really good stuff.
Yeah, it is really good stuff. All right. Favorite lines of the episode. Do you have any favorite lines?
So I only have one.
Okay, go for it.
But I think I'm stealing the best line.
All right, go ahead.
Who are you talking to? Grant Morrison fans, Reddit trolls with DC subscriptions, and the 3 new fans who stuck around after the donkey fart.
Yes, yeah. That was obviously between the Chief and Mr. Nobody. That was a great exchange.
The greatest.
When that Grant Morrison got a shout out in the show that he inspired with his great run of Doom Patrol. I laughed so hard at that. And I'm just like, yes. I love that Mr. Nobody can break the fourth wall like that.
Yeah, I did too. It was just hilarious. And
that was the line of the episode, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it just I just rolled with laughter, because it's so inside. It's so, but it's not. It's not campy the way
It's
Gotham was.
it's self-aware.
Yes, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And of course, Alan Tudyk just delivers it so well with great comedic timing.
And he continues to be an amazing narrator.
Yeah, he is. He's just fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in the episodes to come. I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, so that was the only line you had?
Yes.
All right, so I got a few more really quickly. Exchange between Larry and Rita.
Mm-hmm.
That one we were talking about where Larry says, "I ran from you, when you in Cloverton. You needed us. Me. I ran away because I can't control this thing inside of me."
Yeah.
And Rita replies, "I would have run from me too. If I could run from me right now, I would."
Yeah, great line. Great, once again, just
which shows you where Rita's head is at.
Yeah,
is that she wants to escape her own body.
Yes.
So, really great and great interaction between the characters. Another exchange between Cyborg and Rita, and this is obviously where Rita has her big meltdown.
Right.
Cyborg says, "Rita, I've seen what you can do with your body." And Rita goes, "No, you've seen what happens to my body when it gets stressed out. And do you know what's stressing me out right now? The idea of shoving my face down the slimy throat of a diseased animal. Is this funny to you? Does my humiliation get your blood pumping? I'd like to know what you're picturing right now. Are you going to shove me in a sack? Are you a trash bag, cut a little hole so you can squeeze me into that syphilitic beast like a tube of toothpaste? Push my eye into a funnel and force me into the bowels of a braying shit factory without my consent?"
Yeah.
Cyborg replies, and this is the dead great moment. "Would that work?" So I thought that was great.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, between that scene between Mr. Nobody and Cyborg that we liked so much, where Mr. Nobody's kind of torturing Cyborg with memories of the explosion that took a bunch of his body parts.
Yeah.
Mr. Nobody goes, "And how do you call yourself a hero when your mother died in an accident you caused?" Cyborg replies, "You don't get it. You think forcing me to relive this is torture? I relive this every time I go to sleep. I relive this when I close my eyes. You may know who I am, but you don't know shit about me. If you did, you would know that every criminal I bust and every person I save is me fulfilling a pledge I made to my mom that she'll never get to hear. Trying to make her proud, knowing that I'm the reason she's not around to see it. That's my burden. That's what it means to be Cyborg."
Yeah.
That's great writing there. I love that.
It is totally great writing.
I love that moment.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that Ray Fisher had gotten something that good in the Justice League movie, but he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But here at least Joivan Wade does, and that was really good. All right, what's your rating?
I really, really like this episode. And so I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 crazy ATMs.
Okay, that's good. You really liked it. I actually was a little. I took off a little half point less than you on this one.
Okay.
I give it 8.5 out of 10 swords made out of sharp metal words.
Okay.
Because there was that moment where one of Jane's personas is yelling at Vic, and the words turn into actual tangible objects that could threaten to kill him.
Wasn't that a nice kind of take on that? I think the reason I gave it a little half point higher than you is I get it. This was, in a lot of ways, just a character episode. It didn't move the plot a lot, but I think the individual character moments and the craziness of this and Cyborg joining the team and this kind of this building of each other really, really it's coming pretty special.
Yeah. So basically, was this the episode that everything clicked for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Great. All right. Yeah. See, I thought it was that's maybe why I'm reversed, because it kind of clicked for me in the pilot.
Yeah.
And so this episode didn't have as much impact for
Right.
me here, but I think it was the reverse for you.
Absolutely.
All right, that's okay.
Okay.
So that's good. I'm glad it's
Good.
clicking for you. All right,
All right.
we don't have any Titans Tower news, and unfortunately, DJ Nick never wrote in.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on you, DJ Nick, if you're listening. So hopefully we'll hear something from him next time. So we don't have any Tell It to Titan talk this time.
Okay.
So, but if you want to be like DJ Nick and hopefully write to us, you can write to us at TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. That's TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Twitter at TitanTalkCast on the Twitter, or our Facebook page, Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. Otherwise, you can go to iTunes, rate and review us. We definitely appreciate that. And also, if you would, please support the Southgate Media Patreon page, because that helps keep the lights on here at Titan Talk. And I'm sure Rob Southgate, our editor, would definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Or producer, I should say, our executive producer, because you're our editor.
Yes.
So we'll give him the executive producer credit. All right, Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
So I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter.
Right.
I am in Jesse Jackson from Louisville, Texas, on Facebook. You can hear me talk about Bruce Springsteen and music on Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I have something special coming up for the Lenten season. No connection from Bruce to Lent, but it's an excuse for me to do something a little different. And you can also hear Charles and I talk on the award-winning, long-running Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we talk about everything in the Doctor Who universe. And lately, Charles has been having some guest stars joining us, and it has been absolutely wonderful hearing you talk with other voices.
Well, as opposed to the voices in my head, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, we definitely have a lot of fun, and still always taking guest hosts on Next Stop Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you're going to be coming back, because we're going to, right after this, we wrap this up, we're going to talk some Doctor Who. So
yes, we are.
So don't think that Jesse's getting out of Doctor Who that easily.
Absolutely never. And
right.
Charles, if
Yes.
they want to hear more of your fine work, or reach you, how can they?
Well, they can reach me on the Twitter at Charles Skaggs, or on the Instagram at Charles Skaggs. You can reach me on Facebook at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog at Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk. Titans, Doom Patrol, any kind of casting news for Swamp Thing or Stargirl or any of the other DC Universe shows. All kinds of comic book sci-fi news and news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where I talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. So please check those out as well. I would definitely appreciate it. And otherwise, I think that'll do it. Jesse, thank you so much. I'm really glad you're digging Doom Patrol. This is great. And come on back, everybody. Next week, we're going to talk episode 3 of Doom Patrol, Puppet Patrol. So, yes, I'm noticing a trend here with these episode titles ending in patrols.
Yes.
So next time is Puppet Patrol, as I think the Doom Patrol goes searching for more information about Mr. Nobody and comes across a certain Nazi scientist in Paraguay.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens there, and hopefully find out what happens to the chief. Fingers crossed. So other than that, Jesse, anything else before we sign off?
Not at all. I'm looking forward to continuing this fun journey.
Excellent.
And we'll see if we get more donkey gas.
I could live without that, personally.
Yeah, I could too. Yes.
All right. But we'll see. So everybody, thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time right here, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.